What a renaissance period this is proving to be for Usman Khawaja the past 18 months. So more than 400 runs more than Labuschagne, almost 500 more than Smith, and almost 600 more than Head. And between the other three, they've made 4 centuries between them offshore. And that's what Khawaja has done off his own blade. Robert Craddock here is with me. It's going to be critical conversations over the next 6 weeks. What a start this has been, Crash, to jam so much into what essentially has been 2.5 days of cricket. Hello to you.
G'day, Gerard. Hasn't it been exquisite? And I'm just loving what is going to come up tonight because it's a defining night of baseball tonight, Gerard. If baseball goes pop tonight and they get sort of reckless and Australia barge through them, then suddenly, you know, the natives are restless, aren't they? And all this talk about entertaining people, and which is great. And you can say, we don't care about the result. We play as if it's meaningless. We play to entertain. That's what England's been saying. That's great. But their fans want to win. They want to win the Ashes. So it's such a great introduction you've made there. So many threads.
So I've been watching, reading and listening to as much as possible from an English perspective because they are in the grip of an identity crisis, I think. This is an ideology, this is a religion, this is a cult for them, and yet the former bastions of English cricket are so grappling with it. They want to embrace it, but every time you ask, would you do it? You go, no. Declarations like that. They threw the first punch, and it was noted that England had never thrown the first punch in an Ashes series before when Crawley spanked Cummins to the boundary with the opening ball, and then the declaration was just so garish at the end of day one. Their tactics. Like, have you ever seen a field like they had to Khawaja when they got him out in Test cricket?
No, and I thought it was. It reminded me of an old field that Queensland used to set in the Sheffield Shield occasionally, just to put blokes in crazy positions, just to get them thinking. Khawaja thinks about the game. Why have they put that guy there? And it worked. They yorked him. Stokes has been terrific. You know, he's full of invention and. I must say I was surprised. Teams rarely declare before you think they're going to. To declare 8 wickets down on the first day with Joe Root, 118 not out. Do you know what, Gerard? That could decide the fate of the whole game. Another 30 or 40 runs there. I mean, when every run is a goal bar tonight. I mean, it was such a quantum call, wasn't it? Brave. But they're really into just doing the thing that the opponents like least. Shock Khawaja and Warner by saying, I know you thought you won't be batting tonight. Guess what you are? Put the pads on. Now, it didn't work. But we'll see a string of all those tactics throughout the series. It's going to be good. But there will be a price to them. They have ordered these flat decks, and already Anderson and Broad are feeling their age. They've been good in this game, and Broad's been terrific. But he's still 36, and Anderson is still 40 and 41 in a couple of months. Like, you cannot sustain this sort of heavy-duty bowling on flat decks, which they've ordered. Great for the batsmen, who can trip the light fantastic, rattle the sabres and get the scoreboard ticking over. But I can now see why Ben Stokes, about 5 months ago, said to his fitness staff, I want 8 fit fast bowlers. He saw this coming because they will grind through them.
Usman Khawaja's century, Crash, and the 18-month period that this is almost the pinnacle of?
Oh, yeah. But the pressure, as he said, is all the way around him in England, you know, from fans sledging. And I saw one story, a busker outside the ground to the tune of If You're Happy and You Know It's, clap your hands saying, I've never seen Khawaja score a run. I mean, that sort of stuff gets to you, you know. It was 10 years ago, this tour, the 213 Ashes tour, when he failed, he was dropped, and he sat in the dressing room and thought, you know what, I'm making a fundamental mistake in my life. I've chained my self-esteem to cricket. When I fail, I'm down amongst the most miserable men. And even when I succeed, it's an artificial high. He said, I've got to detach the two. I've got to put cricket in a box. Now, Ash Barty did the same thing, Gerard. She detached her self-esteem and self-worth as a person from her achievements on the circuit. It's a hard thing to do. But from that point, he arrived home in Queensland and they said he was a different guy. Like, the smile returned, the fun returned. And I would love to see him, when he retires, go around to every state dressing room in Australia and just sit down, the South Australian Redbacks, the Victorian team, just question and answer for an hour. This is how I did it. I'm not saying it's a perfect formula. Here's some things you can learn from. But he was so, he's now averaging more as an opening batsman than any opener in the history of the game as a specialist opener. And what? He's doing it at beyond age 35? This is extraordinary. Really it is.
And his numbers are just so much better than the best three batters in the world, Labuschagne, Smith and Head, in the corresponding period of 18 tests. It's remarkable.
Yeah, because he's found this relaxed nature where a test match is like a game of league cricket to him. And that Bazball have found it, and so is Khawaja. Like, he just plays now. And batsmen who are batting with him saying, you get that vibe at the other end where he's got that laconic walk and he comes up, "Oh, you're good, mate," and you'd love to get it in your life, Gerard, that sort of attitude. But here's the thing. He's a streak batsman too. Once Khawaja is away in a series, you rarely stop him. If you jump on him early and he starts failing, that's been the pattern of his tours. But once he gets a good start and his confidence up, there's a certain fire that gets started within him, and he's nigh unstoppable. So I see enormous challenges for England here. And my point to you is this, Gerard. This is a very, very even series, and we all get it. But the reason I keep tipping Australia, name me one area where England is stronger than Australia. Toss Moeen, and I'll match you with Nathan Lyon, who wins that argument. Johnny Bairstow as a keeper is at the moment heavy-legged and buttered-fingered, so you'd go with Alex Carey. The batsman, well, you did all the stats, didn't you? You said top three in the world, and that didn't include Khawaja. And the bowlers, ours are younger and faster, or certainly faster. And but England are better than the sum of their parts, and I get that. But I just think Australia should win.
What did you think of so there's a philosophy at play. What did you think of Australia's defensive tactics to try to contain England? If England are going to bat for X amount of time to limit the damage, and the cost of that, the opportunity cost, is you don't build pressure on the batters in the way that Australia traditionally does.
Yeah. Look, in other words, they dropped two fieldsmen out on each side, sweepers out to the fence straight away. It was so un-Australian, but I understand they debated it and thought this, Gerard. If you move everyone in and say to them, come on, try your stuff hitting over the top, you run the risk of them getting away from you and the crowd becoming a real weapon and just almost terrorising you. Like, it'd be like playing Collingwood at the MCG for 6 hours a day. Eventually it grinds you down. But if you've got men on the fence, it's a steady flow. 59 singles in the first session of the game. I've got to say this, though. England nearly got to 400 in a day, so it didn't really work. It's not really the Australian way. But having said that, one of Australia's last great offshore victories in 2004 in India, they plugged gaps like that. They said to India, you're not getting boundaries, guys. We'll just put a man where your strengths are and we'll grind you down. So I still don't reckon they've found the right field yet. I would be more attacking than what they've been. But it's an interesting one. The jury is still out for me on that. I knew that all the former players would say this is too negative. Yeah, but the ends justify the means. They're favourites to win this test right here, right now.
So the adjustments that they make tonight will be interesting. I think you have to live it and experience it to work out what's right and what's wrong. And I didn't hold it against them on day one that's how they would start, having had a long time to think about it. But I will be fascinated to see what they do tonight. So it's supposed to be sunny tonight, and that we'll get to the pitch in a moment. So that plays a role because the only variation in conditions has been the overhead so far. But I suspect at 2 for not many, Australia will be much more attacking in the first hour tonight and almost dare the Poms to do it.
Well, do you know what? Think of the pressure tonight, all right? Australia holds the Ashes, so that sort of puts you half a test up because the other mob have to beat you by 1 to get them. It's a 4th day of a test. The wicket is slow, but it's just doing the occasional little bit, and everyone will be as nervous as anything. I really hope, like you, they attack tonight and say to England, okay, boys, show us your great philosophy. You know, if you want to tap dance, move out of your crease, attack us and go hard. But this is, you know, give them, bait the hook, you know, play the old thimble and pea trick. Say, have a slash. There's plenty of outfield out there, but you've got to hit over cover, and the cover's sitting there and he's watching you. So I hope Australia challenges England tonight. And that's why I just think it could be one of the great nights of cricket. I really do. I've never looked forward to a day's Test cricket like this. It's going to be great tonight.
It really is. So an afternoon nap is absolutely essential. Cam Green in the gully. So he's doing it Test match after Test match after Test match at the moment.
Oh, he is. Well, what about his wingspan? It's like hitting past a Boeing 727, isn't it? And he moves well, and he practices hard. Another great catch last night. And just, you know, don't underestimate. I mean, he's the ultimate all-rounder, isn't he? Very useful with the ball, solid with the bat. He's always chipping in some form. There's barely been a Test go by where he's come up empty-handed, and sometimes it's a simple innings of 37 or 1 for 29 or 2 good catches. But heck, he's a player, and I just think this Test will be decided by blunders, like Stuart Broad overstepping to Khawaja, no ball when he bowled him. John Bairstow missing 4 chances as a keeper in Test 1. And that to me is the big thing, Gerard. I can't have Bairstow keeping in the next Test. You know, or Moeen Ali with his finger injury now as the spinner. So this is the huge pressure descending upon England tonight, because if they put Australia away and go one up, you know, some of these issues will be, you might tolerate them, but Johnny just doesn't look ready for 5 Tests in 7 weeks. He's been out for so long with that major injury. And I know people say, oh, he's just getting into it. But keeping is a confidence game. I find the more mistakes they make, the more mistakes they're likely to make. Once you go down, you invariably go out.
It's what puts such a bounty on this Test for Australia, because they could totally unsettle England for all the reasons that you've identified. Is they're taking the punt on Bear. So he's given back his 78 runs with the bat well and truly by now, with the chances that he's missed. And Moeen Ali, I mean, you know, he's breached the ICC rules. His finger is injured, so that's going to be challenging for him from here on. If Australia wins this Test match, it'll challenge everything in England's thinking, I reckon.
See, that's a great point, Gerard. And let's just dwell on that for a minute and work out what it means. Before they started Bazball, England had won 1 of 17 Tests. Since then, they've won 11 of 13. But they haven't really had anything on the line in those series. They weren't protecting any historical legacy because they were gone so bad. Any little win was an improvement. But here's the thing. They haven't lost at home to Australia for 22 years. So that is a record they are protecting in some ways. If they lose this summer, that's a real historical black mark on Bazball, because they were, just for once, even though their recent form before Bazball had been terrible, their record against Australia in England has been good for 2 decades. So they have got something to lose for the first time with Bazball, and it's big. And as a mate said to me this morning, Gerard, and I'll ask you what you think of this, he said, the reason this Test result is so interesting is that Bazball says take the result out of the game. Stuart Broad says they have never spoken about the result in a year of Bazball. They never say if we win, if we lose. They just get on with it. They don't have team meetings per se, and they're very relaxed. But that's great for you to get in a state of mind. But do your supporters think the same? If you start losing, are they sort of, let's not worry about the result? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you do worry about the result. You are force-fed the result, aren't you?
You are, and if they insulate themselves from it, because it is like a cult, but everything else will turn. So, as I say, the commentary around it is the English commentators are doing their absolute best to embrace it, I think, against every impulse in their bodies.
Yeah. You're right, because it's just not the way England play cricket. And just the flipping of everything, right down to Ollie Robinson giving Khawaja a serve when he got him out, an expletive-laden serve. That's normally an Australian delight, isn't it? Isn't that an Australian dish?
Push off, Ollie. Come on, mate. He made 141. You lost. These are the moments in cricket that if you knock him over for 6, great work. Do whatever you like. But when he's made 141, you lost the battle, mate.
Yeah. Gee, it was such a out of the blue, but it was very Ollie Robinson. He's quite an interesting character. Jason Gillespie coached him at Yorkshire and sacked him for being unprofessional and felt he had an enormous amount of growing up to do. And of course, he was suspended for making racial tweets and all that. But guess what? On the other side of it, he's the best research player Gillespie's ever coached, in terms of he does homework on everyone and everything in cricket. You wouldn't think so. He just sits there and has bowls this metronomic line and length. But he's very clever, Ollie Robinson. He's far more clever than you may think. And as I said, the best research cricketer probably in England. But the other side of him is he's a bit mad and still has this sort of maverick tendency to him. So just one of the interesting characters you meet on the cricketing journey.
And the pitch crash this is very un-England as well. And I think most of us would hold the view. I hope all 5 pitches aren't going to be like this.
No, I saw Trent Copeland tweeted that really early on the first day, and I thought the same thing, because, Gerard, when Bazball gets on this pitch, as delightfully charming as Bazball is with big shots and feverish running, there is a large portion of the day that's like the middle overs of a one-day game, where you've just got the field on the fence and the ball's been nudged for singles. The bowlers seem out of the game, and we've spoken about it so often. I'm a dodgy deck man that loves seeing a green deck and the spice of seeing Broad and Anderson up in the saddle and blokes ducking and diving. But the one thing we must say, if they keep putting on decks like this, the game breakers in this series, we all think, it'll be the batsman. No, it won't actually. It'll be the bowler who swims against the tide. It'll be Nathan Lyon taking 27 wickets at 20. Or Pat Cummins, ploughing in on these flat decks and somehow conjuring 22 wickets at 18 or something. Like, who can break the trend? Just as when you're playing on a green deck, the match breaker is often that batsman who somehow manages 82 when everyone else is scoring 10.
So tell me this, Crash. What happens tonight? What's your favourite scenario?
It's so hard to read, isn't it?
It is.
England will get the chug-a-lug along. They have fastened their sail to what they want to do, and they'll try and just get those Australian fieldsmen out in the fence, then milk the Australian attack. There's a little bit of seam. I'm tipping Lyon as the hero in the third session, and I think Australia can win this game. I really do. And I think Bazball will be under pressure tonight to keep up to the standards that it has set for itself. I'm worried about Tuesday because rain's forecast. Yeah. But whatever happens, it's been a delicious entree to the 4 tests that follow. I mean, who would have ever thought, Gerard, in our lifetime, we would see Australia and England scoring almost identical totals in the first innings of a test, except England took 34 overs fewer to score it.
Yes.
Hey, am I really saying this, mate? I'm asleep in bed having a dream, aren't I?
It just messes with your head. They are in the opposite guise to everything that we have known.